Welcome to this question and answer session where Stephen Davey answers questions about the Bible and the Christian faith. Here's the question of this episode.
Pam from South Carolina. My husband and I believe 1 Corinthians 14:40, which teaches that we should have orderly conduct of church services. Our church has started praying out loud together occasionally. May we have your thoughts on this? Thank you.
Well, Pam, thank you so much for calling in with your question. Stephen, Pam's in a church where they have started to have everyone pray simultaneously out loud, and Pam is wondering about that.
Sure. Well, Pam, thanks for calling in. There's no verse that says you can't. There's no verse that says you should. There is a principle, though, and I think you alluded to it in 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 40, where Paul is telling the church in Corinth that had become rather chaotic. This is specifically related to speaking in tongues. There was this outburst taking place, and so he gives some rules in a church that's going to do this. And, of course, this is a different subject. I think the rules rule it out because primarily it's for unsaved Israelites to be given the sign of tongues that judgment has come. But that's another subject. But at any rate, he's saying, look, if you're going to speak in a tongue, do it 2 or at the most 3. Take turns doing it, verse 23, verses 27 to 28. Make sure there's an interpreter first. Keep silent if there isn't one. So all of this is to bring order to a worship service so that it isn't distracting. It's edifying. Frankly, I'd have a hard time praying if people around me are praying out loud, just keeping my own train of thought. It's hard enough for me to pray when it's just me and quiet, much less somebody, barking away in my ear. So I would recommend that, you have order, that you take turns. This is how we would do it in our church. But again, I want to be careful because the Bible doesn't condemn it. There may be times when you might ask the congregation to pray at the same time quietly so they're not distracting. But typically you might gather in a group where one person at a time is leading in prayer. That person is going on behalf of everyone to the Lord in prayer. That's the prayer in the assembly, and that's the normal practice. And so I would encourage that. Just be careful that we don't become legalistic in saying you should do it. And I think it's just as legalistic to say you can't do it. Just it's all orderly. Same idea. I have people ask me, Pam, can I raise my hands, in the service? Well, there's no verse that says you can or you can't or you should or you shouldn't. David certainly talks about, lifting holy hands, but I think that's probably tortured a bit to talk about a worship service today. I think, and I respond to people with, well, you can raise your hands, but I just hope I'm not standing behind you because I'm not going to be able to see. So just be respectful of people in the assembly. Don't be distracting. This is a corporate service, which means it's not about you. It's not about me individually. It's about us together approaching the greatness and the glory of God.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. As you were talking, it made me think about the fact that if we are praying out loud as opposed to praying silently, the reason we're praying out loud is for others to hear us. God hears us whether we pray verbally or silently. God hears our prayers. So if we're praying out loud, it's for the sake of others who are hearing us. But if everyone's doing it at the same time, you can't make sense of any of it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Scott.
Thanks for listening today. This has been a production of Wisdom for the Heart. To learn more about our ministry, visit wisdomonline.org and be sure and hit the subscribe button to be notified of new episodes.